Hail and well met, travellers. Thank you for joining me once again on this chilly winter's evening. I'm the Moonlight Bard, and tonight we shall be journeying once again to the village of Holme-Shtuttel-Stratis and picking up where we left off. Bobble has a guest to entertain. What wonders shall the dragon reveal to our hero? What treachery shall Bobble find in the woods the following day? And what new creation will Wisdominus unleash upon the world? All shall be revealed, and now, without further ado, I present to you Part 2 of the Wrath of Mount Deldon Duraq. Bobble wanted to speak, to say or do something, but though he moved his lips, no words could he summon. Words like how, why, or what for, jumping all about the space between his ears by the dozen. At last he settled on hello, his second favourite word, something easy and simple, no need to complicate. Hello yourself, replied the dragon, not the least bit disturbed, before he folded his wings, coughed up some smoke, and sat back to wait. You haven't seen much of my kind before, I can tell, he went on after Bobble stayed silent. It is wise to judge carefully who you let through your door. But no need to be fearful, or shocked, or defiant. A little warmth and some shelter is all that I ask, and I promise to pay you anything you desire. Treasure, love, help accomplishing a great task. Whatever you want, plus the world, for the heat of a small fire. Bobble thought then of jewels, of castles of gold, of medicine for his father, and of having many friends. If a dragon could exist, then what else could unfold? Could he use this chance meeting to meet his own ends? Oh, don't worry about all that, Bobble then said. The stove is on already, it'll be on all night. Come on inside and warm up in your fiery bed. I can get some tea on the go if you like. The dragon didn't take tea, but stayed locked in the stove. Bobble watched him cook through the black metal grate. The dragon's skin brightened and Bobble's eyes began to rove over each ruby-red scale, every glittering black plate. After some time gazing on, shapes began to emerge. He saw people on their knees, crowds of them bowed low. They appeared sick and trembling at the hands of a harsh scourge. A wicked thing was in them. This much Bobble did know. Some of them wept, while others snarled with anger. Rain soaked through their hair, turning their clothes all sodden. Drums beat softly and rose into a clangor, the faces crying tears of the defeated and downtrodden. They twisted and writhed, and from their teeth they grew fangs. They knotted their fists and clawed the dirt with their hands. Then Bobble noticed in the pits of their eyes a dim light, a thing greener than green that grew brighter than bright. Then before him rose a tower, at its top an emerald shine. Bobble leaned closer, straining to find what. He wasn't sure, and so could not say, but something was surely pulling him this way. The longer he looked at the light, the less he could see, until it was only the green light and he. It tremored and vibrated, and he felt his heart shake. He wanted to scream, but no sound could he make. The light beamed into his soul a dark secret, something so rotten he didn't want to believe it. Bobble woke up, his face slick with sweat. It was morning. Birds sang. The stove stood empty. Had it all been a dream, one he ought to forget? "Good morning," said a voice. "I've made tea for plenty." There was the dragon, hovering in the doorway, a steaming pot of tea hanging from his tail. Nothing like a nice hot brew to start off the day. The pot weighed him down, but his wings flapped without fail, so that he hovered a foot or two overhead. As Bobble looked at the beast, he couldn't help but think, "Weren't you smaller last night, before you went to bed?" The dragon put down the pot and took a quick drink. "Well, yes indeed, and it just goes to show how far one little fire can go. Fire is our favorite food. It always puts us in a good mood. Besides the flames, there's not much else we can eat, since there's only 3 things that to us count as meat." He finished his tea and with a flap of his wings, leapt across the room and onto the windowsill. "It's time now I go to see what the day brings, but I shall return when the night becomes still." And with that, he leapt into the air and was gone. Bobble ran to the window to try to watch him fly. But aside from the sound of his wings beating on and on, Bobble could find no trace of him in the sky. He knew not what to make of the chance encounter. With too many questions, his brain could only flounder. What of the dream with the light so bright and green? Who was this scaly beast? And on what else did he feast? Bobble went to the woods of Golgotan Manchuris to fetch herbs to ease his father's illness. It wasn't long before he noticed with a start a noise coming from deep in the wood's heart. It was a tap, tap, tapping that began all alone. Then a second musician joined in, and then more, till soon the air was filled with a sound like a dull moan, like the marching of hundreds of boots on a wood floor. Bobble followed up a stream leading toward the commotion. After a short time, he was met with the strange notion that the trees in the distance were waving their branches at him. As he drew closer, the noise rose into a clamorous din. The villagers were chopping and hacking the trees into bits, pulling them down with ropes and sawing them into sticks. The ancient trees of Golgotan wood were said to be sacred. As long as Bobble had lived, only what was needed had ever been taken. He hid and watched the wood turn to timber, as each mighty trunk was toppled to the floor. Amongst them scuttled the wood soldiers, so limber, cheering as they felled the forest score upon score. Bobble realized then that the people were singing, a chant he had never heard that made his heart grow colder. The hundreds of voices were so loud they were ringing in his ears as he crouched behind a moss-covered boulder. Cut down wood and dig up dirt, crush up stone and flatten earth. The people carried and dragged the logs away tied to ropes. Bobble and Lady Constance followed to see where they went. The villagers marched over crag, field and hilltop in droves, boy and cat following after, like hounds on a scent. Drag and carry, heavy load, turn us back to our abode. Then Bobble saw across a swampy marsh a cliff face. In its shadow the villagers churned in swarms like ants. They were gathered around its steeply rising base, building something with the wood and singing their bitter chants. Build it high and make it strong. Build it to the sound of song. They were sawing and sanding the logs into fine, smooth planks. They worked like a practiced, well-ordered machine. Each pair of hands had its place and purpose amongst the ranks. Each nail was driven in with an unrelenting focus so keen. Tell us this is not our own. This is what we now call home. Bobble crept closer, the swamp mud swallowing his boots. Lady Constance stayed beside him, body low to the ground. They crawled under a tree trunk and peeked between its roots, so as to observe the scene before them and hear the chanting sound. Hidden secrets will not keep. None shall hide the truth we seek. Bobble looked on in horror as before his very eyes the thing from his nightmare started to rise. At first it was vague, but soon began to take form, and pillar by pillar the tower was born. With this one eye we shall see what dangers may come to be. A train of wagons came from the mountainside, carrying mounds of boulders piled up high. The people set about stacking them, brick by brick, and binding them with a sticky mud so slick. Mud that came from the marsh to the south, and delivered by cart to a trench's mouth. Where water was streaming from the western river, in wood buckets up to bricklayers it was then delivered, who slapped it on without spilling a drop, slotting every stone in swiftly before smoothing out each top. Piece by piece and rock by rock, bit by bit and block by block. All the while the little soldiers were scurrying about. They would tug on people's sleeves and whisper in their ear, or leaning out of pockets would occasionally shout some direction to their owner, but what was said was never clear to Bobble and Lady Constance, who watched the whole affair and saw the mighty tower ascend into the air. And then the work was done, finished at an impossible rate. Wisdominus's creations were powerful, it seemed. Far more so than Bobble had had reason to anticipate. Far more than anyone could have ever dreamed. Yet Bobble did dream this very sight he recalled. Last night when he was gazing into the oven, the dragon somehow through the blaze had installed in him a vision of events yet to come. Now our work here is complete. Bring the wise one to his seat. May he speak that we shall hear. Let him lay it all out clear. Then we'll come to understand what the danger is at hand. This last point perked up Bobble's ear. He was not aware of danger here. No trouble was there in Holme-Shtuttel-Stratis. No warring tribes came for jewels, gold, or garnets. No sickness, famine, scourge, or storm. No rat infestation or locust swarm. No rising tide threatened to sweep them all away. No part of the village was sinking into decay. What wicked things then had come about to cause the villagers to hunt and scout for danger? Where was the issue's core? Where should they look to settle the score? And who was the wise one of which the villagers spoke? How was it only he knew of this and not any other folk? The people gathered around the tower, and at its head, Bobble spied a figure step forth in robes of red. A red so deep and dark in shade against the light of the setting sun. It shimmered like an ocean wave, and the crowd fell silent, all as one. It raised its arms, and from the very first word, Bobble knew whose voice it was he heard, for there were none such as he, neither near nor far, none who could speak quite like Wisdominus Bozagar, none who had such a power to leave those who heard him amazed, none with such green eyes as his that burned and blazed. "My humble greetings I bestow to you all, as well as my gratitude for this tower so tall. But we've no time to dwell, lest the powers of hell should make our lives quite unbearable, for our delicate peace is most likely to cease. We are met with a monster most terrible. Holme-Shtuttel-Stratis is in the gravest of peril. The beast we now face is cunning, cruel, and feral. It will show you no mercy, so let there be no controversy as to what must most definitely be done. We shall slay the foul thing, and in doing so bring safety and security to everyone. Our enemy is crafty and knows how to lie. He is nimble, fast-moving, and can even fly. But with this tower now watching over our skies, any cloud rover shall not get very far unspotted. And if all of us stay faithful to our friends, then the disgraceful falsehoods of this beast will be unknotted. Go now, I bid you, and search high and low. Scour every place where evil things go. You must be stout of heart when playing your part, for we need to find it before it can grow and fatten. Divided we are weak, only together can we seek to locate and destroy the Red Dragon.